Presiding Officer, I'd like to begin with a reminder of why we're discussing these matters today. The world's ecosystems are rapidly degrading. This is not a remote or an abstract problem. It's real, it's happening now, and we cannot continue to ignore what is in front of us. The marine heatwave declared in the North Sea last week, which has been labelled extreme by scientists, this clearly shows the impacts of the global climate emergency are already being felt here on our shores. It's more clear than ever that we are in the midst of a nature and climate crisis. We must be prepared to take action commensurate with the scale of that challenge, but at the same time we must do so via a fair and just transition, which empowers our people. Presiding Officer, I want to be clear why this government believes change is required. The latest assessment under the UK Marine Strategy indicated that overall we have failed to achieve 11 out of the 15 indicators of good environmental status in our seas. Evidence presented in Scotland's 2020 Marine Assessment shows an accelerating rate of change due to human activities. 9 out of 21 marine regions in Scotland have seafloor habitats which are predicted to be in poor condition across more than half of their area. Seabirds are also in trouble, with populations of surface-feeding seabirds such as the kittywauke in decline. So failure to safeguard and improve the resilience of Scotland's marine ecosystems to changing climate risks, it risks the very basis on which our marine industries and coastal communities are built. The case for enhanced marine protection, therefore, is clear, and one which all parties in the Chamber agree on, or at least they did at election time. We know that where we protect our marine ecosystems, we protect and we sustain the ecosystem services that livelihoods and communities rely on, and that outcome is something that I hope we can all agree. That's why we are committed to working with coastal communities, with fishers, aquaculture, tourism and all affected sectors to enhance marine protection in Scotland for the benefit of all. There has, understandably, been considerable debate around highly protected marine areas, and I should like to thank all members, stakeholders and members of the public who have contributed so robustly to the early part of this debate. My thanks also for the many constructive conversations that I've had with MSPs from across the Chamber in recent weeks, as well as with fishing representatives, local authorities, youth representatives and environmental campaigners. That includes my colleagues in the Scottish Greens. Highly protected marine areas are part of our Butte House agreement, and I very much welcome the constructive engagement that I've had with the Green Group as we've developed our thinking on this critical issue. I have listened intently and am in no doubt of the strong views both for and against. But if there is one consistent point of consensus, it's that doing nothing is not an option. In fact, we know from a recent government-funded study that 85% of Scottish respondents consider that protecting the marine environment is important to them. So I want to emphasise that I recognise the scale of what highly protected marine areas represent. We are at the drawing board on this issue, Presiding Officer, and I have, from the very beginning of the process, invited Scotland's communities to the drawing board with us. It's why I was keen that we consulted so broadly and so early in the process as possible, with no predetermined ideas about sites. We're currently analysing the thousands of responses to that consultation, and I will, of course, give due consideration to those. A full response to the consultation and the next steps will be published after summer recess. However, I committed in this chamber to updating the Parliament on the matter as soon as I possibly could. So ahead of a fuller update after summer, I should like to share an initial one today. Now, a particular concern that has been raised with me, Presiding Officer, notably by both those who support HPMA and those who don't, is the implementation of the proposal in the proposed timeframe could risk limiting our aspirations for genuine collaboration with communities, which, to me, to this government, is absolutely integral to Scotland's approach to a fair and a just transition. Therefore, while for reasons that I have stated we firmly remain committed to the outcome of enhancing marine protection, I can confirm today that the proposal as consulted on will not be progressed. This means we will no longer seek to implement HPMAs across 10% of Scotland's seas by 2026. Over the summer, as part of ongoing dialogue with all of those who have an interest in Scotland's seas and protecting them, We will develop a new pathway and a timetable for our work. This will be in line with our draft biodiversity strategy and its ambition for Scotland to be nature positive by 2030. And it recognises that the EU has proposed marine protection in at least 10%, enhanced marine protection in at least 10% of its seas by 2030. Importantly, I will ensure that communities across Scotland are central to this process. We know that there are a plethora of innovative ideas of how we can improve protection, and this is exactly what I want to hear more of, including from those such as inshore fishermen, who recognise the importance of this to their livelihoods. It's very important to me that those affected by policies are engaged in their development. The viability of coastal and island communities matters greatly to this government. So too do matters of cultural importance that have come to the fore of this debate. As I have said a number of times, our seas must remain a source of economic and social prosperity for our nation. So I speak directly to everyone in our coastal and island communities, including those who have expressed concerns to date, when I say that I want you to help shape the future of Scotland's seas. As I, and indeed the First Minister, have said many times, communities must be meaningfully involved, and today I'm making clear that that will happen. In that regard, and on an immediate and ongoing basis, the Government does remain committed to support any group that wishes to pursue community-led marine protection in their local areas. We have already seen successful initiatives in Arran and in St Abbs and Eyemouth. I will do everything I can in this session of Parliament to support those communities who want to follow their shining examples, examples that we know can work to improve the state of the local marine environment. And while I have confirmed today that the HPMA policy as consulted upon will not be taken forward, investing in ocean health requires a range of interventions across all of our seas that we must continue to take forward as a matter of urgency. Scotland's existing marine protected area network covers approximately 37% of our seas, but individual sites must be effectively managed to achieve their objectives. And we must also do more to safeguard our particularly vulnerable species and habitats. We have an ongoing programme of work to implement fisheries management measures in existing MPAs where they are yet to be introduced, and to protect some of the most vulnerable priority marine features outside of the MPA network. These measures were delayed by Brexit, by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we're committed to putting them in place as soon as possible following due process, and I welcome the fishing industry's support in moving this forward. And I can confirm that after summer recess, we will consult on proposals for fisheries management measures in offshore MPAs beyond 12 nautical miles. The options to be consulted upon have been the subject of extensive engagement and over many years with all stakeholders. Inshore MPAs and priority marine features also require fisheries management measures. However, the complexity of the inshore and the number of sites has meant that progress has been slower than hoped. Therefore, consultation on inshore measures will take place in 2024. My colleague Mairi McAllan intends to consult this summer on the potential closure of sand eel fisheries in Scottish waters. This is a crucial step in safeguarding an important food source for many species and could aid the long-term sustainability and resilience of marine ecosystems. All of that vital work, Presiding Officer, on marine protection, it must and it will proceed with pace. And of course it does so as this Government continues to support Scotland's fishing industry, not least through the £14 million Marine Fund Scotland, which the Rural Affairs Secretary Mairi McAllan recently launched the third round of. And I want to take the opportunity to thank all of the stakeholders with whom Mairi and I work across all these matters. Presiding Officer, I began this statement by outlining our commitment to addressing the twin crises of climate change and nature loss. Our blue economy vision recognises that our economy and society are embedded with nature. They are not external to it. It looks to move us beyond traditional narratives of choosing between ocean protection and production, recognising that the latter cannot be achieved without the former. I'll be publishing more on next steps after the summer, and of course we'll keep Parliament up to date. But I hope that what I've stated today demonstrates that I am listening and I will continue to listen. There's been a lot of heat in the debate about HPMAs, and I hope that my commitment to develop a new pathway with all those who will join me round the table will allow a great deal less heat and more light in the matter. Because, Presiding Officer, I'm clear that both enhanced marine protection and a whole community approach is required. Presiding Officer, I said in my foreword to the recent HPMA consultation that, and I quote, "I'm determined that those who may be affected by these proposals are involved from the outset. That's why I want to hear what you think." I went on to say, "I want to take on board your concerns and your ideas." Presiding Officer, while I continue my meetings across Scotland over the summer, and as my officials and I finalise analysis of the consultation responses, I trust it's clear that I'm listening and that I will continue to listen as we take forward what is the imperative of marine protection. Thank you.